Anse kahkio. Ago magante kayo into temtik. Apoy mio asin to apim tago kahkio kayo. Oh my gosh, payaki to. Lagin mio 18 gabi takis kana magian. Not skatipiska kaneo kisgak. Tato ganeo kisgak. So hello everybody. Some of my relatives are in here and my friends and everybody. You guys are all my friends now. So, but it's good to see everybody again this week. I'm always happy to join on every Thursday to come and teach and come and learn with you guys. So it's good to see everybody again this week. And we're in week 8, so we only have, after this class, we only have 2 more classes. So it's went by fast. So I'm hoping that you guys learn some stuff. I'll take some stuff home, maybe use it in your own homes and such. So of course, for each class, we always begin. I always want to make sure that we have practice doing our introductions because, like I said, this is always really important part about learning any language in general, is being able to introduce yourself in the language. And, you know, you're not only limited to these 5 statements, but for me, I feel like these are nice statements, nice little sentences to learn. So for example, I would say, you know, Darian nitsi kashan. Achkate nitaspi kashan. Causes kayate ochinia. Causes nigipe opagin. Regina megwach nuigin. So again, when I'm talking about my own information, that's what I say. But now we're starting to add, you know, a relative, talking about a relative. So for example, okay, I could say Jackie asikaso nikawi. Achkate aspikaso. Houses kayate ochuia. So now this is kind of the statement we added this week, is where he or she originally is from. So I was talking about my mom. My mom's name is Jackie. Her last name is Achkate. She comes originally from Causes. So now I want to ask, for example, let's see, Pamela. Mateuiche hin. Atamskawik. Introduce yourselves to us. Who are you?
Danse, Pamela Nitsikason, Herod Nitos Picason, Kingston Kayate Ochinia, Ottawa ni Piopican, Limoges me Quach ni Weekend.
Go ahead. Mateuitamuanan Peakkiwagomagan. Tell us about one of your relatives.
Marjorie Itsikaso Nikawe, Stanley Aspicaso, Saskatoon Kayate Ochiria.
There we go. That was perfect. That was very good. That was good. Now I'll ask one more person because I wanna get her going. We have kind of a lot of little things to look at. So for example, Philip Mather, sorry. Introduce yourself. Awinakia, who are you?
Picasso, Peter Picasso, Toronto, Montreal, Kana Asasteki watch the weekend.
Perfect. Egwa, witamua nan peakiwago gan mate. Tell us about one of your relatives.
Peret Picasso, Lepage Picasso, Montreal, Ochiwia.
There we go. No, that was perfect. That's cool. So you speak, of course, French, eh?
Oui.
Oh, oui. That's cool. I don't speak French, but on my reserve, we had people who spoke what is called Michif. It's a mixture of Cree and French together. You know, we take Cree verbs and mostly French nouns, and that ended up through the Métis kind of creating its own unique language compared, you know, it's basically French and Cree mixed, but over time it's their own. So I know things like n'importe quoi, little simple things like that I remember hearing growing up, but I don't speak French myself. That's perfect. Good job. So like I said, every week we're going to be looking at this. I'm going to ask maybe 2 or 3 people. I only asked 2 people tonight because I want to get through some stuff, but I'll be calling on some people to introduce themselves, and we're going to be adding 2 more statements after this for next week and then the very last class. So that's perfect. That was good. You guys are deadly. So I want to talk a little bit about what we were doing last week before we move on into the stuff I made for this week. Last week we spoke about the different seasons, ispita skiwana, within Nihioe, in the Cree language. And again, we have those 6 different seasons that we recognize in Nihioe when compared to the 4 that we know of in English. We have Mioskamin, Sigwan, Nipin, Tagwagin, Migiskau, and Pipun. So we have those 6 seasons that we recognize in Nihioe. So if I was to ask somebody, for example, Kego ispita skiwana egwa, what season is it now? For example, where I am, it's currently Migiskau. So I would say Migiskau me guach. Migiskau me guach. Just meaning like it is freeze up right now. It's the freeze up season right now. So for example, Jolene, gray. Kego ispita skiwana egwa. What season is it now where you are? I know some places don't have freeze up.
Tawagan freeze up? I'm not sure. I'm in Edmonton.
Oh, you'd say yeah, Migiskau. Say that. Migiskau me guach.
Mega scow may watch.
Yeah, they have freeze up over there. I have some people who from California. I don't know if they're here, and some from BC that over there, of course, they don't have that freeze up, so that season would not be applicable over there. Egwa, for example, Dr. Zolotarov. Kego espita skiwana egwa.
Megiskau megwach.
There we go, perfect. So that's what you would say, if you ever wanted to, say what season it is. You could even just say the season itself, Migashkau. Because when you say that by itself, it just literally means it is freeze up. Megwatch is just like saying like right now. Megwatch right now. And that goes into our different weather terms that we have in there, because of course we have different kinds of weather that happens throughout the different kinds of seasons. So here are some common weather terms that we have in the Hioe when wase skun. Everybody say that. Wase skun. Which means like it's clear or it's sunny compared to yikwa skun. Meaning like it's cloudy. There's clouds in the sky. Everybody say kisa steu. Meaning it's hot. It's hot right now. Compared to tahkayao. Say that. Tahkayao. And of course, now we're getting into the winter months and the freeze up. Everybody say mispun. Meaning it snows or it's snowing. And when we get further into the winter, you're going to see that it's going to start to be kisanao. So kisanao just means like it's really, really cold. Like it's very, very cold. Tahkayao just means like it's cold. It's bearable. But kisanao is when you have to like double up on your layers. Get some long johns on, don't even go outside at all sometimes because it's way too cold. And now everybody say kimawan. It's meaning raining, it rains, it's raining. And then tikiteo. And then we have yigoan. So tikiteo, it melts, and yigoan, foggy, are not as common as weather terms, but they're still good to know. And then, of course, everybody say miyoki sagao. Because every day is a good day. And that's actually considered a weather term. Miyoki sagao means like the weather is good. It's a good day. Miyoki sagao. So if you ever want to say that, that's a good word to know. Miyoki sagao. It's a good day. So all these weather terms are considered verbs. They're all action words in Nihioewin. And that's because Nihioewin, the Cree language, is a verb-based language. So almost everything that we speak of in regards to, actions, states or feelings, or even weather terms are verbs. Even colors are verbs in Nihioe when we look at colors as if they are verbs. Yeah, you didn't. That's one that I should have added on there. You didn't. Just like Tyler was saying, you didn't means like it's windy. It is a windy day. You didn't. I had a cousin named You Didn't. He was my good cousin growing up. You didn't. So if you wanted to ask somebody about the weather, this is the sentence that you would say. You would say, Tanse e swepak. Tanse e swepak. And in regular speech, it comes Tanse e swepak. Tanse e swepak. So that would be you asking somebody, how's the weather? You know, how's the weather today? But if you're looking at it literally, it's asking, how are the conditions? You know, how is it outside? So if somebody was to ask me, you know, how's the weather? For here, I have no windows where I am right now, but when I was walking here, you know, it was nice. It was a good day. You'll see people follow the weather term sometimes with anoch. Said it a little bit differently, but it just means today. So that'd be good if you said the weather term and then behind it right away say anoch. You know, early this morning, you know, takayao anoch. You know, it was cold today, early in the morning, but miyokisagawa anoch. It's a good day today. So if I was to ask you guys, you know, for example, where you guys are at, like Emery's De La Rue, Tanse Eswepak.
Hello, Takayao Anoch.
There we go. Yeah, takayao. Say that, takayao.
Takayao.
Yeah, again, takayao anoch.
Takayao Anoch.
There we go. Perfect. Sean, Tanse Eswepak. No, I think you put on your camera, not your mic. I'm just looking at you.
No, Tikitawa, Kitayo, or not.
So say tikateo.
Tikiteo,
Anoch.
Tikiteo, Anoch.
Again,
Tikiteo,
say
Anoch.
tikateo anoch. Yeah.
Tikiteo, Anoch.
There we go. Perfect. Go ahead, Tyler. Tanse Eswepak.
Yotin anoch.
There we go. Yotin anoch. Yeah, just like Tyler said, yotin. To be windy. I'm not on my computer. I'm at the office right now, so I don't have the long vowels. But yotin is just kind of like saying it's windy. It is windy. It's windy today. Yotin. We also have this word. So kioweo. That's like saying if it's just really windy. Like if you're under 100 pounds, you better make sure that you have a bunch of rocks in your pockets. Windy. That's what sokioweo is. So we have two separate words for that, but Tyler used the right way. Yotin, it's windy. So that's what we do if we're trying to ask about the weather. Danse is swepak. You know, how's the weather today? And then we have a bunch of different kinds of words right here. So again, for example, Spencer, danse is swepak.
Miyoki Sega.
Yes, say that again. Say miyoki sagawa noch.
Miyoki Sagawa watch.
Or anoch.
Anich.
There we go, yeah. Go last one, Crystal. Tanse swepak. Much, Crystal, are you too shy? Not Chantel. Tanse swepak.
Oh, sorry, I was on
Okay.
mute.
Tanse swepak, Crystal.
Mio gisagawa no.
There we go. Go Chantel. Tanse swepak.
Mio kisagao anoch.
There we go. Perfect. And that's good because miyoki sagawa noch, you know, every day is a good day. It doesn't matter the weather term. Doesn't matter the weather. That reminds me of a story because when I was doing my first few Cree classes, we have oral fluencies where you have to go into the office or go into, you know, with your professor and just speak the language. He'll ask you questions and such, and you have to answer them. You don't have no paper in front of you or nothing. And yeah, this is one of the words that he said, Tanse is swepak. And it was like a room like this with no windows, no nothing. And I kind of froze up because I had an answer in my head, but I froze up, and then I was trying to think. I was like, well, how's the weather outside? And there's no window, so I ended up saying Mio Kisagao, Mio Kisagao. It is a good day. And he looked at me kind of funny. And he says, no, it's a ugly day out there. It's cloudy, it's windy. He's like, you could have said, different kinds of weather. But I was like, well, Mio Kisagao, that still works. It's a good day every day. And then he accepted it. I always remember that. So no matter even the weather, Mio Kisagao, it's always a good day. So if we were to say if it was like humid, kind of a different word. Miyama, wow. Miyama, wow. There's supposed to be a long A on the very last A. Miyama, wow. Miyama, wow. Like it is humid, it's damp outside. That's what it literally means, like the air is damp. Miyama, wow. So that's like it's humid when you can just like taste the air. That's what miyama, wow is. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that before we moved on into what we have. I have other stuff for that, seasons and weather terms. Like, for example, I was going to go through what the weather was like during each specific season, but we'll have a lot of time to look at that on the last class, because that's when we're going to be reviewing almost everything. What I want to look at for tonight mostly is talking about now going into verbs and talking about just basic commands. So before we go on into this, does anybody have any questions or anything that they want to know? If not, we'll just run right into this. And if you have questions, you can always just put them in the chat. I'm always watching that. So, So when you're thinking about basic verbs in the Nihiwe, like I said, Nihiwe is a very verb-based language. So almost everything is considered a verb, from our basic colors, basic actions, and even like we've seen, weather terms are considered verbs. And additionally, you'll see that we don't have adjectives like English does. Adjectives are words that describe, something or someone, like saying beautiful, handsome, or awesome, things like that. We don't have specific words like that because those adjectives, those phrases are also considered verbs. So they have to be properly phrased. So we lack adjectives in Nihiwe, but they basically just are verbs as well. When you're learning Nihiwe, with verbs, it's best to start off by learning the base forms of those verbs, the most simplest forms of those verbs. From there, you can learn how these forms can be used to create bigger, more complex sentences. So the base form, the most smallest form, smallest, way you can put a verb are always mostly going to be command forms. Anytime you just have a base verb, it's always in the command when it's just sitting by itself. It's always a command, such as saying kiwe, go home, atoske, work, nehiowe, speak Cree. Let's see, Angeline, try say that. Try say kiwe.
Kiwe,
Say atoske.
atoske,
Say nehiowe.
nehiowe,
There we go. That's perfect. Well, let's see. Juanita. Try say those ones too. Say kiwe.
kiwe,
Atoske.
atoske,
Nehiowe.
nehiowe.
There we go. So those are just really basic forms of those verbs. And you can see that they're commands. So of course, you're telling someone, go home. Kiwe. They're visiting too long. They're eating too much of your bannock. You say, kiwe, go home. Atoske, somebody's not working. They're just sitting there, twiddling their thumbs on their phone. You gotta say, atoske, work. Or if you want to tell somebody to speak Cree, in Cree, you say, nehiowe, nehiowe, speak Cree. So the three verbs are the base form of those verbs. They're the smallest version of them. When you just have those, you can't really take anything else off. Those are the most basic forms of those. And those will get us the commands. So now we'll look at how we can use, these different command forms in different ways. And also I'll give you a good list of, base verbs to look at. So here are 10 different base forms of those verbs. which we can see that they do have a difference both in how they look and also their meaning. So that's why when you're learning this kind of stuff, this is what indicates to us what the verb is. So you have to make sure that, you know, when you're learning Cree, you learn how the verb sounds, you know, ape, but also what it means. So it's like going from form to meaning. So that takes a little bit of while when you're first learning, because of course, looking at these words, if we didn't have the translations beside them, you know, especially if you never learned Cree or were around Cree, they just look like a bunch of letters all next to each other. But when you start putting form to meaning, that's when you're gonna start to learn those different things. And I took, you know, really basic verbs to work with. For example, ape, you know, telling someone sit, sit. I think most, like especially being Cree, even if your family didn't speak Cree or speaks Cree presently, ape is a really common word in Cree, and it just means sit. Whereas you could say pasago, pasago, you know, get up from sitting. Kasi kwe, you know, wash your face. Kista patejo, brush your teeth. You know, miakaso so, smudge. You know, miitso, eat. Mini kwe, drink. You know, pe ho, wait. You can say siga ho, brush your hair. And then kaismo, go to bed. So all those verbs right there are their base forms, meaning that all these ones are commands you can give to people. You know, you can tell somebody, brush your hair, siga ho. You can tell somebody, wash your face, kasi kwe, and so on. Rolin, asani. Say some of these with me. Okay. Ready? Say ape.
Ape.
Say pasagu.
Pasagu.
Say kasi kwe.
Kasi kwe.
Say kista patejo.
Kista papeho.
Again, say kista
Kista
patejo.
pateho.
And then this one sounds like mia caso so.
Mia kas aso.
Yeah, again, say mia caso so.
Mia kaso so.
There we go. Yeah, mia caso so. Smudge. Yeah, you're telling someone to smudge. Perfect. That's good. Shira. Mate wicho hin. Try to say something with me. Say
Hello.
mitso.
Mitso.
Say mini kwe.
Mini kwe.
Say peho.
Peho.
Say siga ho.
Zigaho.
And kawisimo.
Kawisimo.
There we go. That's perfect. Okay, well, one more person. Let's see. Bertha. Mate wicho hin.
Hi.
That's it. Say ape.
Ape.
Say kasi kwe.
Kasi kwe.
Say mia caso so.
Mia kaso so.
Say mini kwe.
Mini kwe.
And say siga ho.
Sigaho.
There we go. Perfect.
I have a
Well-
question for get up.
What's up?
What's I don't know how to say it. One ska.
What is ska is like get up from bed.
From sleep. Okay.
Yeah,
One
from
ska.
sleeping. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one ska or one is ska. Yeah, that's another one. I should have put that on there, but pasago is like getting up from sitting. Somebody sits down, you don't want them to sit. You say pasago, get up from sitting. We also have another one that is nipawe, meaning get up or stand up. So it's not necessarily from sitting, just like telling someone get up, stand up, nipawe. Pasago is more specifically from, yeah, if somebody's sitting, you want to say pasago, get up, stand up from sitting. So yeah, we have really specific verbs sometimes. So all these words right here, all 10 of these words are commands that are given to just one person. If you say any of these, you're telling one person to do that action. Ape, you know, maybe you have a son or a daughter, or, you know, a younger sibling, somebody in your family. You want to tell them to sit, you say ape. So all these ones are just telling one person to do that action. Next, we will look how we can take these same base forms, these same verbs right here, and change who we are giving the command to. You know, talking about one person or more than one person, and we have other things as well that we're going to look at. So if you're wanting to give a command to more than one person, plural, you have to take that base form of the verb and just simply add a K sound at the end of it. Such as we say ape, sit, said to one person. Now say that I have more than one person in front of me. Maybe everybody's standing. I have, students or some of my family, and I want to tell all of them to sit. More than one person. I say apik, apik. All of you sit. So that's the only difference when you're giving a command to more than one person. You just add a little K sound onto the end of those base forms. Apik becomes apik. So you can take one of those verbs from here, one of those 10 verbs, and just simply, typo, add a K sound to the end. This changes that command from just one person to more than one. So for example, let's see, be, mate witsehin. Do that for me. Take one of these verbs from the side and just add a K sound to them so that you can change who you're giving a command to.
Mini queek.
There we go, mini queek. Yeah, mini queek. B is he's from TH country. His mom speaks deadly Cree, TH Cree. Are you at the university too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're both in the same building now. B's one of my students. He's deadly at Cree, and his mom speaks real deadly Cree too. So
All that.
No, that was good though. Mini quay to mini queek or mini quake. Just adding that K onto there. That's perfect. Belden, do that same thing. Take one of these verbs right here and just add a K onto the end.
Meat suck.
Egwa, say meat suck.
Meat suck.
There we go. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you took meat suck, telling one person to eat. You just say meat suck. All of you eat meat suck. Egwa, let's see. Hilda, try to do that as well. Take one of these verbs and just add a K sound to the end.
Pasigok.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, say again. Say pasagok.
Pasigok.
Yeah, so that again, if you have, talking to more than one person, you want them to get up, you say pasagok. All of you get up. That was perfect. Yeah, one time I was up north at Kapatigonak and there was a powwow going up at Thunderchild, and I'm from the south. And especially around my area, cows, you don't really hear the language that much spoken. Not much people speak Cree or Soto or, any of the languages. So when I was up in Kapatigonak at the powwow, real early in the morning, the announcer would go up and he would start speaking Cree and telling stories in Cree. I always thought that was really nice. Even just waking up in your tent and you hear somebody telling a story in Cree, you might not know what they're saying. It was just nice to wake up to. But during the powwow, when we would have to get up for honor song and, get up for, grand entry, things like that, he would always say that, pasaguk, pasaguk, get up from sitting, get up. How do you say drink? We say mini quay, mini quay, mini quay. So if you want to tell somebody to drink water, you can say mini quay water or mini quay napi if you want to say it in Cree. Napi is water in Cree.
What about for the and for everybody?
Mini quake.
Mini quake.
Yeah, mini quake. Yeah, like all of you drink. Mini quake napi. All of you drink water. Perfect. So we have the one last form that I want to talk about in using these verbs right here is a form that includes us, the speaker, in the action. So when we say it like that, it's kind of confusing. So you'll see that when we use these endings, this one, it usually just translates out to like let's blank, depending on the verb. So that's like saying, let's sit, let's smudge, let's, brush our hair, let's go to bed. This is the type of form that I'm talking about, including us, the speaker, in the action. For example, when we do that kind of form, we're just going to be adding a tan sound to the end of that base verb. Tan gets added on. So in the previous one, we're just adding a K sound, apik, apik. Now in this one, we're adding actually tan, So for example, michiso or mitso, telling one person eat, mitso. If I wanted to include me, the speaker, I would say mitso tan, let's eat, mitso tan. So say that you're sitting down, somebody just finished praying for the food, you say mitso tan, let's eat. So that we're just adding that tan onto the end of those words, those base verbs like ape, pasego, kasikwe, and so on, to indicate that change. So you can take one of those verbs from the right and just add tan to the end of them to change that meaning. So for example, Madeline, do that for me. Take one of these verbs from the right-hand side and just add a tan sound onto the end.
Okay, pehotan.
Again, say pehotan.
Pehotan.
There we go. What does that mean?
Let's wait.
There we go. Yeah, pehotan. Let's wait. Pehotan. I'm just trying to rush across the road when there's a car coming. Pehotan. Let's wait. Perfect. Tal. Do the same thing. Take one of the verbs from the right-hand side here and add a tan sound to the end.
Motan.
Yeah, koisimotan. What does that mean?
Let's go to bed.
There we go. Yeah, koisimotan.
Motan.
There we go. Perfect. Dr. Ziffel, Dr. Vincent, do the same thing. Take one of these words right here on the right-hand side and add a tan sound to the end.
Okay. Mia kasoso tan.
Say again, say mia kasoso.
Mia kasoso.
Say mia kasoso tan.
Mia kasoso tan.
There we go. Perfect. What does that mean?
That's let's smudge.
There we go. Yeah, the smudge is just going. That's what you say. Mia kasoso tan. Let's smudge. That's perfect.
Cool. Thank you.
So again, everything starts from that base verb that, ape is just the most basic. When we start to add those different endings, you can see how it changes the meaning. So you can take that base verb and put all the three different forms like this. So for example, ape, apik, apetan, pasego, pasegok, pasegotan, mitsok, mitsok, mitsotan. So you always have that base form there. It never changes. It's the sounds that follow that word that change, which change the meaning. Once you know that base form, you know the action. You just have to start picking apart what those endings mean. So for example, like Raylin, mate witsihin. Say on the left-hand side, say this, say ape.
Ape.
Say apik.
Apik.
Say apetan.
Apetan.
There we go, perfect. All you're doing is adding those endings on there. Let's see, Chelsea, mate witsihin. Say this one, say pasego.
Pasego.
Say pasegok.
Pasegok.
Say pasegotan.
Pasegotan.
There we go. Égua. Annalie. Anin chega. Bonjour. Annalise is Nishnabemu and Nishnabekwe. Say this, say mitso.
Mitso.
Mitsok.
Mitso.
Say mitsotan.
Mitsotan.
There we go. What's the word that you use in Nishnabemu and for eat? Is it wisenit?
Yeah,
wisenit. Yeah, wisin. Yeah, it's a little bit different in Soto or Anishinabemu in the word for eat. So you'll see that. That's perfect. So again, try take one of these base forms on the right-hand side and try place them in all the kind of different forms that we have here. And all you're going to do, for example, take that base form. When you just take one of these words on the right-hand side and say them alone with no ending, no extra little sounds, it's already a command. You're telling one person to do that. When you add that K sound to the end. Now you're still telling someone to, but you're telling more than one person to do that action. And then of course we have tan, that tan ending, which just includes you, the speaker, in the action. So I could say, you know, pay ho, wait, said to one person. I could say pay hook, all of you wait. And then I could say pay ho tan, you know, let's wait. So it's just as simple as just adding those different endings on there. So for example, Dr. Zolotarov, do that for me. Take one of the words from the right-hand side here, one of the base verbs, and put it in all the 3 different forms we looked at.
Peho, pehok, pehotan.
There we go, yeah. Same thing. Let's see. Tyler, do that for me. Take one of these verbs from the side and put it in the different forms.
Coisimo, coisimo, coisimo tan.
There we go. Yeah, that's perfect. What? Belden, do that for me. Take one of these verbs and put them in the 3 different forms we looked at.
Casi que, casi que, casi quaitan,
Again, say kasi tan.
casi quaitan.
There we go. Yeah, kasi tan. What does that mean? What are you saying?
Let's wash our face, our dirty
Yeah, kasi
face.
tan. Let's wash our face. We're just really greasy. We have lots of these kinds of base verbs. The ones in the yellow, we have a ton of them. For example, tomese is one. Be greasy. It's supposed to have a long O. Tomese, tomese. But you can't really say that as a command. Well, maybe you can, you know, if you want to try to be cheeky. Tomese, be greasy. But you'll see that some verbs sound a little bit awkward when you have them like as a command. So they're more so used in bigger sentences. Like, for example, no tegate. You can't really tell somebody to be hungry as a command, you know, no tegate, be hungry. It just doesn't sound right, you know, in English, but it is possible in Cree because we just have those base verbs, no tegate, to be hungry. But we have lots of different kinds of verbs that we can use. So the previous slides explored the different forms of those commands, you know, given to one person, more than one person, or including the speaker. But all of those were used to indicate something that was to be done like right now. You're telling someone to do it like right now. But what would we do if we wanted to tell someone not to do something? So if we look at these examples, you'll see the difference in between, you know, when you're telling someone to do something right now or just do it. Whereas when you're telling someone not to do something, it's a little bit different. So I would say, mitsu, eat. Mitsuk, all of you eat. Mitsotan, let's eat. If I was telling somebody or all of us, you know, right now, let's eat. Whereas if I was telling someone don't eat, I would say, egawya mitsuk. Egawya mitsuk. All of you don't eat. Egawya mitsotan. Let's not eat. What is that important word that I added to tell someone not to do the action? Can anybody tell me that? What word did I use? What do you think is telling us someone not to do it?
Egawya.
Yes, egawya. So that's the important word there. If you look at them, the yellow, you know, they're exactly the same. Mitso is still mitsuk. Mitsuk, still mitsuk. Mitsotan, still mitsotan. We just added that egawya before the verb to indicate, you know, don't do that. Egawya mitsu, don't eat. You know, egawya mitsotan, let's not eat. So that word egawya, meaning do not or don't, is added to indicate a negative command. We have names for each of these, you know, types of verbs, but I would just call it a negative command. You're telling someone not to do something. And you'll see that depending on where you are or speaker, there's different ways of saying egawya, which is the full form. Egawya is the full word. Speakers sometimes will use different forms of that word, such as gaya, gawya, egai. And they all mean the same thing, don't or do not. For example, like in my area, well, not around Kansas, but in southern Saskatchewan in general, I heard lots of speakers use egai, or gaia, gaia. Seldom I heard somebody say the full word egauia, egauia. Most times they'll say gaia or egai, taking those little shortcuts. So, but they all mean don't or do not. And you'll see that kind of, we do that in English as well. Like if I was to ask somebody, jeet. I think most of you might know what I'm asking, jeet. We kind of break it, we kind of shorten the word. If I was to say this really formal, to one of my friends, did you eat? And kind of taking the long route. I can just say jeet, and you guys can be able to understand me. So that's kind of things that's happening in Cree. Rather than saying the full word, egauia, you can get by just by saying egai or kaya, gauia, and it'll still mean the same thing. But you'll see when we write Nahiawewen, we always try to write that full word, egauia, but not every speaker will use that full word. So these are some things that I heard, regular kind of sentences like egai po me, egai po me. Po me is that verb, that base verb. If you said po me by itself, it means like give up. So it's not a good word to use just without that egauia or egai. When you say egai po me, you're telling someone don't give up. Egai po make. All of you don't give up. Egai po me tan. Let's not give up. And another one that I've seen people say kaya tota. Kaya itota. Ends up just becoming kaya tota. Kaya tota. Don't do it. And we'll see kaya totamok. All of you don't do it. And kaya tote tan. Let's not do it. So that one on the right side that I marked with asterisks, they are a little different. They have different endings in some cases. And you'll see, I'll talk about that a little bit towards the end of the slideshow, what's going on there. But those are two kind of regular things that I heard, the examples of commands in the negative form, telling someone not to do it. Egai po me. I always heard people telling me that. I first heard that there in Okamesom Kagiti. Nagiitik ko kaya siso chib in 2018 askew and kagi spike. In 2018, that's what he taught me that word. Late Darren Okamesom. He was my professor. Because I was trying to give up and go back to the reserve. School was hard, and I was away from my family. I didn't have much family in the city, so I was kind of feeling bad. I was just gonna give up and go home. And he said, "Egai po me, egai po me." And I didn't know what it meant, so that's where I learned it. That's a good word to know. So, like for example, Angeline, say that with me. Say egai po me.
Egai po me.
And say egai po make.
Egai po make.
And egai po me tan.
Egai po me tan.
There we go. Yeah, let's not give up. Let's see. Chantel, say that with me too. Say, say egai po me.
Egai po me.
Say egai po make.
Egai po make.
And egai po me tan.
Egai po me tan.
There we go. Yeah, let's not give up. So that word right there, po me, follows the same exact things as the 10 verbs we looked at. So if you're to put those words right there into a negative, form, telling someone not to do that, you can say the full word. You can say egauia, then the form. Like if you want to tell someone not to sit, you could say egauia apik. Don't sit. Egauia apik. You all don't sit. Egauia apitan. Let's not sit. But again, if you wanted to just cut it down and say egai or gaia or gauia, even that works. But when I write out the what do you call it, the sentences, you'll see that I always use the full word egauia. So just like I said, egauia, don't sit. So you can take one of those verbs, one of those words right here on the right, and put them in those forms, like I have here. Egauia apik, egauia apik, egauia apitan. Everything else, it's all the same things. You just add a K, you know, if you want to give the command to more than one person. You add a tan if you want to say, you know, let's blank. The only thing that's getting added is that egawia or egai or gaya, whatever you want to use. So for example, let's see, people at the urban office. Danshi.
Danshi.
Hello. So Jeannie, try do that. Take one of these verbs right here, the one in yellow, and put it in that kind of negative.
Ikaw ape. Ikaw apik. Ikaw apatan.
There we go. Yeah. There you go, Auntie Sharon. Try to do that same thing. Take one of those verbs in yellow and put it in that kind of negative.
Minique. Oh, Ekawia minique.
Yep.
Ekawia miniquick.
Yep.
And Ekawia minique or miniqueton.
There we go. That was perfect. Good job.
One more.
Okay. That's it. Do that same thing. One of these words in yellow.
Okay.
Yeah, put it into the negative.
Ekawia basico. Ekawia basico. Ekawia basico dan.
There we go. That was perfect. Good job. That's good. So yeah, all those verbs right there, like I said, you just have them sitting alone, they're commands. Now we just have to put things around them or put different sounds onto them. That'll change the meaning. So now, since we looked at that, we looked at these kinds of commands, you know, just simple commands telling people, you know, to do something, to not to do something. So those previous slides just introduced those simple commands using very simple verbs, but of course you have to learn them, so they're not simple in a sense. But we have a variety of different types of verbs and what we call verb types, which also have command forms. Like for example, I could say, kanawapata, look at it. Kanawapata muk, you know, you all look at it. Kanawapate tan, let's look at it. And also we have kanawapam, look at him, look at her. Kanawapam. I can say kanawapamik, you all look at him, look at her. Or kanawapamatan, let's look at him, let's look at her. So the only difference between, you know, what we're looking at before, ape, pasigo, kasi, kwe, and so on, and these ones, is that these verbs above are dealing now with an object. They have something that you're looking at, you know, either him, her, or it in the command. So that's the difference here. With these kinds of words, we don't have that it. We don't have that her, that him. You know, we don't have those types of things. They're just commands, but we do have different types of verbs that do that, actually have an object in the sentence. You know, look at it, kanoapata, compared to look at him, kanoapam. You can see how they are slightly similar to each other, but they do have their differences, and that's what indicates to us, you know, what the object is, whether it's it or him or her. So for example, Tyler, mate wicha hin. Say that, say kanawapata.
Kanawapata.
Say kanawapatamuk.
Kanawapatamuk.
Say kanawapate tan.
Kanawapate tate tan.
Again, say kanawapam.
Kanawapam.
Say kanawapamik.
Kanawapamik.
And say kanawapamatan.
Kanawapamatan.
There we go. Yeah, kanawapamatan. Let's look at him. Let's look at her. Real big eyes looking at somebody. There we go. That's perfect. There you go. One more. Let's see. Sean. Mate wichahin. Help me say these. Say this with me. Say kanawapata.
Kanawapata.
Say kanawapatamuk.
Kanawapatamuk.
Say kanawapate tan.
Kanawapate tan.
Now say kanawapam.
Kanawapam.
Say kanawapamik.
Kanawapamik.
And kanawapamatan.
Kanawapamatan.
There we go. That's good. Those are different kinds of verbs. So these different types of verbs will have different endings accompanied with them compared to what we were looking at before, you know. These ones, just a K means suk, you know, tan means so tan. These ones will have slightly different endings based on the type of verb they are. That's why it's good to just start off easy with the base forms, learning the command forms, and slowly start to learn all those different endings. Because when you have the base form, you know, the command just sitting by itself, that's the smallest that word can get. And you'll see that they will change. Those base forms will be slightly different from each other, depending on who or what you were talking about. You know, inanimate objects compared to animate objects. So nagatawita, nagatawita. Everybody try to say that. Say nagatawita. Say otena. Say natona. Say natota. Ego opena. So those ones are used for it. You know, nagatawita, take care of it. Otena, take it. You know, natona, look for it. Natota, listen to it. And opena, lift it. Whereas when we look at verbs for, oh, this way, we're going to look at that at the end. I was going to just say that. When we look at the verbs for him or her, we say nagataweyim. Nagataweyim. Take care of him. Take care of her. Otin. Take him or take her. Not to know. Look for him. Look for her. Nato tau. Listen to him. You know, listen to her. And open. Lift him or lift her. So you can see the similarities between those. You know, nagatawita compared to nagataweyim. Otena compared to otin. Natona, natonao. Natota, natotao. And opena compared to just open. They are similar in form, but you see the differences is what makes them it verbs compared to him or her verbs. So just like Dr. Zolotarov was referencing there, how would we say it, eat it compared to eat him or eat her? When we're learning the Hiuewin, the best way to start learning those verbs is just to look at those base forms, which are commands. Like I said, it's going to give you the smallest version of that word. With this, you'll be able to have that base form, and all you have to do is go and learn about the specific endings that specific verb takes, depending on the meaning. But also, we have different endings attached onto these base forms, depending on the type of verb it is. So it does seem really, really kind of confusing at first when you're learning, but once you start to put the forms in, or put the verbs into different, you know, different categories, like verbs that have no objects, you know, like eat, just in general, verbs that have a living object, and verbs that have a non-living object. Those are like the three main forms that we have. We have one more, but I don't really talk about it. But each verb type will have a slightly different base form and different endings that are accompanied. If we wanted to look at the same action or the same verb, but in all three different types, you know, no object, living object, non-living object, we could look at the word, for example, like mitso, to eat. When we say mitso, we're just saying eat in general. Like we're not telling you to eat it. We're not telling you to eat him or her. We're just saying eat in general. Somebody's being picky with their food, you know, they're throwing their peas around. You say mitso, eat. But if you want to tell them to specifically eat something, you know, non-living, you say miche, miche, eat it. And further, if you want to tell somebody to eat him or eat her, and which kind of seems weird in English because, you know, eating something living, but in Cree, we have a lot of food items that are considered alive, like carrots are considered living. Beans, kidney beans, those are considered living. And even if you just want to say, eat the moose, you would have to say mo. Same thing with when we say see. Wape is just to like see in general, like say somebody's blind, you would use that kind of word. Moe wapiu, he or she can't see. Wape as a command doesn't really sound or have any uses. It's used in bigger kind of bigger sentences, but wape is possible. See, just in general, compared to wapata, see it, and wapam, see him or see her. So all these are just commands. They're the command forms of these verbs. So for example, Raylin, mate hin. Say that with me. Say mitso.
So
Say miche.
Miche.
Say mo.
Mo.
There we go. Yeah, perfect. There go one more. Emrys, delaru. Say this. Say wape.
Wape.
Say wapata.
Wapata.
Say wapam.
Wapam.
There we go. So 8 o'clock. So kinanas ko mito now. I forgot the K on the end there. I thank you guys all for listening. I know it's kind of went fast, but this is stuff that I have to talk about. But we're gonna have lots of time on the last class. But you can see that when we're learning Cree, it's not just Cree. We have different types of verbs you can use for different reasons. And when we start to get into objects, talking about it or talking about him or her as an object, those words will change. But the ones we are looking at mostly, they don't have objects. They're just regular commands. And most of the time when people speak Cree, they use these kinds of words that don't take any kind of object. They're the most common verbs. So that's why it's good to learn about these first. Because when you start to get into looking at objects, see it, see him, see her, then you're going to start to see how kind of complex the language is. So if anybody has any questions, then just let me know now. If not, then we're all done. Ego shit.